What are different types of dunes? Start with Barchan dunes. These are some Barchan dunes on Earth. And as you can see, they are kind of crescent shaped, and they tend to form in places where there's one wind direction that dominates. The nice thing is about these dunes that you can always tell the strongest wind direction by their shape. So if we look at the top, you can see the crescent shape, and you can see that the wind direction is coming from kind of behind the big curve of the dune. And if you look at the right hand figure, you can again see that the wind direction is coming from kind of the end with the tapered end, coming from behind that big curve of the dune. And then at the other end of the dune, so over here, there's the slip face, the toe of the slip face, and then and we'll talk more about that next. And then these over here to the side of this of that are called the horns. So again, these are more Barchan dunes, and this time these are in the Egyptian desert. And again, you can figure out from the shape of the dune what the wind direction, the dominant wind direction, is likely to have been. So if we look at this figure down at the bottom, this shows a little diagram of these dunes. So again, we have the wind direction, and in this case it's coming from left to the right. And the dune, you can see the slip face there on the other side of the dune to the incoming wind. And the angle of that slip face is always about 34 degrees. And it's called a slip face probably because sand can kind of slip down it. You can get these sand avalanches. If that angle increases because more sand kind of gets built up at the top of it, they can avalanche down, and it will always keep that same kind of angle there. Another thing that's very cool about dunes is that you can see from above these dunes moving across the surface. And so on Mars and other planets, we tend to do this from spacecraft that are in orbit. And on Earth, of course, we also have airplanes and balloons and other things that can look at dunes. So this on the left shows a dune moving over about 13 years. And you can see that it started off where there's the dark red, and then it moved down sort of to the south-southwest over the course of the years, and the final position is in that kind of bluish purple. So that's really cool. And if you were standing there on the surface watching it, you really wouldn't be able to see it move, but over the course of time, you can see that move. And on Mars, we also see Barchan dunes moving, and this is so lovely. I love this this little couple of images, and you can see the first one is in 2008, and the second one is in 2016. And so 2008, the dunes are higher up in the image than they are in 2016. So again, that's a direction that you would expect, because we know that the wind direction is coming from sort of the top of that curve, and we know that the slip face is on the opposite side to the incoming wind direction. So in 2016, the Curiosity rover investigated 2 Barchan dunes inside Gale Crater on Mars. This is Gale Crater, and you can see that there is, first of all, there's a crater here. This is Gale Crater, and then in the middle of Gale Crater there's a feature which is sort of a little mountain in there, and it's informally known as Mount Sharp, although the after a very well-known geologist, Bob Sharp, but the official name is Aeolis Mons. And you can also see that in this dip in the trench of the crater, which is between the crater rim and this mountain, there are these darker features along here. And then there's a big lot here, and then there's some others over here and down here. And these dunes along here are the ones that have kind of been pushed in up against the mountain, and those are called the Bagnall Dunes. So the Curiosity rover drove through those dunes on its way to explore Mount Sharp. So here's a close-up of that, and again you can see how the rover drove from its starting point along kind of almost parallel to the dunes, but getting steadily closer until it found this entry point here, right between these two lovely Barchan dunes. Oh, and yes, it's good to point out that there are numerous Barchan dunes along the end here. They're not so many when you get further into the dune field, but right at the edges there are a lot of these Barchan dunes. And we knew these dunes were active because we had already seen them moving from orbit. So this is showing, this is from a paper by Simone Silvestro et al. And it's showing the dunes moving. You can see 2 times here, T1 and T2. And actually this is showing ripples on the top of a dune moving, but you can also see the edge of the dune moving. And you can see that everything is moving towards the southwest. And if you look very closely at this one, you can just see the front of the dune moving here. And now there are 3 times, so 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And of course the dune itself is not moving back and forth, it's just the image looping. So what we're really seeing is just a repeat of the dune moving again to the southwest. And of course all these ripples on top of the dune moving as well. And the reason why the lighting looks a little bit different is because the spacecraft that took these images that were taken months or even years apart was at a slightly different orientation in orbit as it flew over. So it was pointing in a slightly different direction. Also, the sun was in a different place probably because these were at different local times. And so that's why you get slightly different lighting, which can make it a little bit difficult to track what's going on, but we can still clearly see the dunes moving against this bright, in this image, bedrock underneath. And here's a real close-up to see the front of that dune moving. And this is just a flash between the first and the last of those 3 images. So again, you can see it moving towards the southwest. So here's a better look at those 2 dunes that Curiosity got really close to in the Bagnall dune field. High Dune and Namib Dune. So orbital images tell us that these dunes are moving to the south, actually, not so much the southwest, but these ones are moving sort of more to the south, just like other dunes that are kind of in the immediate area, although the entire dune field as a whole is really moving to the southwest. And again, this is sort of what you would expect from the shape of those dunes, where you can see that it looks like the wind direction is kind of coming from just slightly to the east of north. And so here's the first of those dunes moving, and then here is the second one moving. It's a little bit hard to figure out the direction of motion from these movies because of the change in lighting. But if you look at it really carefully and you look at lots of different places, you can definitely see that there is a motion sort of to the south.